Hello, everybody. Welcome we are going to talk about Bruno, a special topic for live action role play. I'm Cynthia Marie, your host with basically my Latine family. I'm so excited with all of you guys being here. We're going to talk about Encanto, if you didn't know, from Hispanic Latine perspective. And you might get a little bit more about Latine heritage. So without further ado, I do want to jump in and introduce everybody, right? So let's start with Blythe. We're going to give our name, where people might know you from, your heritage, your background, and what Encanto character do you identify? So yeah, let's go ahead and start with Blythe.
Hi, I'm Blythe, and you may know me around the internet from, well, I've been on live action roleplay before. I've been over at the Scabby Rooster, Happy Jack's RPG. I have kind of been all over the interwebs doing tabletop RPG things. So if you see me there, or maybe you see me talking about Star Wars on Twitter, I don't know. My pronouns are they, them. As per my heritage, I am Colombian, so this is going to be very fun for me, because this movie means a lot to me. It's also really weird to see Colombian culture be so popular now. And I ID with Mirabel. She is kind of the fixer of the family, but also the outcast, and that was always kind of me growing up. So I relate a lot to her.
Yes,
yes. Now.
And show your eyeshadow.
Oh yeah, I have the Encanto eye palette by Alamar, and it is absolutely beautiful, and I'm pretty sure they're still selling it.
Yes. Thank you, Blythe. All right, going around the screen, we're going to jump to Randy.
Hello, I'm Randy. No, so my name is Randy Alvarenga. I go by he, him, and then people might know me from, I've done some shows here at Live Action Roleplay. I've also done some shows over at Saving Throw, Dragons and Things, and Gone Rogue, which is another Twitch stream. So I'm just doing a lot of streams. And then my heritage, so I'm African American and Salvadoreño, first generation. So my dad came here back in the 80s, which during a civil war, which this show has like some really interesting parts that really hit me at being from that. And then the character I ID with the most is probably Bruno. And the reason for that is being African American as well, like my Latin side of the family, some people didn't really like that. And so there was definitely some pushing away that happened. And so I kind of felt like I was there, a part of the family and a part of the culture, and then also like at the same time kind of behind the walls. So for me, that really hit me when I saw that. And I've been like, Bruno, I love you. You're so awesome.
Yes. Well, thank you. Coming back around is the person that I love truly. She and I have shared a house together for a long. This is my sister, Lex. Lex, introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Lex. You've definitely heard me here a lot on Live Action Roleplay. You might also know me from the Scabby Rooster. That's about it, because I like to stay in my house. My pronouns are she, they. I don't have a preference on either, so feel free to use whichever you like. My heritage is actually just obviously the same as Cynthia's. We're Puerto Rican and Cuban. And for those who are just unaware, because it makes sense for no one to know this, but Puerto Ricans were actually Spanish, we are Black, and we're Indigenous. So we identify with all three of those at all times. And my favorite character and the one I identified the most is actually Luisa. I totally understand what it's like to be the rock, physically and especially emotionally in my crazy Latin family.
We're not crazy.
We're very crazy in a good way.
Thanks, sis. All right, moving back around, Hector.
Hola, ¿cómo están? So I'm Hector Salvador Quintana. I'm from Texas and 100% Caucasian, so I don't know how I ended up on this thing tonight. I don't know what we're talking about. No te creas, no te creas. I'm just kidding. But I am a little like feeling some kind of way about Randy claiming Bruno because I thought we weren't supposed to claim Bruno. So we're gonna have to throw down a little bit later. I have a
It's the
filetto
one
in my
that you
hair.
identify with, baby.
That's the one I identify with.
That's okay.
No. But I'm gonna talk about Camilo because I actually definitely you missed the filetto in my hair joke.
Oh,
though.
I think Hector, I think you're mistaking it. Not the character we're going to talk about. This is separate. This is just
okay,
in general.
Got it. Okay. No, but seriously, Camilo, it's funny because when I really delved into kind of researching and looking at him, he's a middle child. I'm a middle child. And I'm a big jokester, clearly, you know, we have that in common. And also I've been told a lot that I can sort of shapeshift. So tonight I'm in my colorful shirt and bow tie, but you know, I get down with some leather and some hardcore, you know, hip hop wear and all that good stuff. But my heritage, I am from Texas, but I am Mexican, Spanish, Native American, and a little bit of Irish actually. So that's my background. And this is my first time on live action role play, but you may have seen me. I've done some film and television. You can go to my IMDb page has it all, Hector Quintana. And also I've done a lot of theater over the years. And actually the person who wrote this music had the opportunity to audition on Broadway for In the Heights. And that is probably one of the best experiences of my life. So I'm very excited to be talking about this movie in particular, the music, the writing, the family dynamics, all of it. So thanks for having me here tonight.
Yes, I'm excited. All right, let's jump to Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda, pronouns she, her. You might know me from some of the other shows on live action role play. I read for Hook and X-Men, where we all sort of talked about Encanto in the group chat more than we talked about X-Men. You could also find me, I play Dystopia Rising in NorCal and SoCal. My heritage, I'm half Mexican. My dad's side of the family lives just east of El Paso. And my other half on my mom's side is Sicilian. She moved here in 1975 from Sicily. So I have a bunch of that first generation trauma. So the Encanto character I ID most with is, so I flip-flopped a lot. I really identify with Peppa because emotions in a big family like Mexican and Italian, you don't want to portray a lot of negative emotions, just happy, loud emotions. But I'm human and I've got other emotions. And I was assigned Isabel. At first, I hated Isabel the first time I watched it, but the more I watched it and the more I learned about her, the more I was like, damn, maybe it's just like something I got to talk to my therapist with.
Right on. I actually had to do the same. So if y'all don't know me, I'm Cynthia Marie. I'm your host tonight and have been your host on live action roleplay. You've seen me on a bunch of other streams that I don't need to get into. What am I supposed to say now? Oh, you guys know my heritage because my sister already said it, so don't need to talk about that. So the character that I ID with is Isabella, because I'm the eldest child and had to work on being perfect all the time. So there's a little bit of trauma there. I had to talk to my therapist about the whole situation. So it's good. It's good times. So everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm really excited to jump into this discussion. I do have a couple of ground rules / warnings that I'd like to put out there for you in chat and also just for us to be a little bit comfortable here. And I wrote them down because I'm that person, right? So we'll be having a healthy discussion about race, culture, gender roles, generational and familial trauma that is meant to be informative from the perspective of us Hispanic or Latine and or individuals. We all come from various walks of life. I just want to be cautious that we respect each other's opinions. So it's to say that we could and probably will argue about the movie Encanto. Some of us liked it, some of us didn't. That's okay. We're going to have a healthy discussion about this. For those of you in chat, as much as I would love to take your questions, we're going to try to keep it condensed to our crew here, and we'll try to answer your questions at the end a little bit if we have some time. So I want a head nod from everybody. Is everybody okay and safe with what I just said? Excellent. I want this to be as safe as possible. So let's dive in. If you haven't seen Encanto, stop watching this right now. Just turn it off. You good? Okay, so everybody still here has seen Encanto. Great. So those of you who are still here, please adjust your volumes to what was the level of volume we're supposed to adjust to?
Telenovela.
There you go.
Please.
Adjust to telenovela, because us Latin people like to get loud. All right. So like, just be ready for that. So Encanto was created in 2021. It's an American computer animated musical fantasy comedy. That is so many words. Produced obviously by Disney. It is the fourth Hispanic oriented animated film. We will talk about some of the other ones later. But it is actually also the 60th film produced by Disney. Encanto was directed by Jared Bush and Byron Howard, co-directed by Charisse Castro-Smith, who co-wrote the screenplay with Bush, and produced by Yvette Marino and Clark Spencer. And of course, with original songs from Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yes. Encanto follows a multi-generation Colombian family, the Madrigals, helmed by a matriarch whose children and grandchildren, except for Mirabel, sorry, receive magical gifts from a miracle that helps them serve the people of the rural community. So they're featuring so many voices. You guys can all kind of find the information. I just kind of pulled that from Wikipedia just in case, so everyone kind of knows and understands what the movie is about. But featuring the voices of Stephanie Beatriz, Maria Cecilia Botero, Jean Leguizamo, Mario Castillo, Jessica Dado, Angie Cepeda, Carolina Gatian, Diana Guerrero, and Vilmer Valderrama. So with that being said, just wanted to give credit to all of those people, and of course all of the animators who created and anything that went into creating this awesome movie. First off, thank you, because it's not often that we get to see our culture on screen. And so that's kind of what led us into our conversation when we were talking about it on the X-Men show was, holy crap, there is a movie about Hispanic people that's actually positive. Ah! So I wanted to talk about our first reaction to seeing our culture, specifically, Blythe, I do want to start with you because you are Colombian. How did it feel to find a movie that's about Colombia?
It's weird. It's so weird. I'm so used to everything about Colombia being about drugs and death and murder and bad. Everything is bad all of the time. So when I saw the trailer for this the first time, I cried. I straight up just cried because I never thought I was going to get this. I assumed I was going to be picking pieces from other like Hispanic movies for the rest of my life. Just going, you know what, it's close enough. And then this happened. And the movie, I do have a little bit of an issue with the fact that it's so Colombian, but also so many people keep erasing the Colombian from it. I get really sad. But I'm so happy it exists. Like, I'm thinking about little me, and if I had had this movie growing up, I probably would have never like relaxed my hair, or like I probably would have been proud of my curls, been proud of the way I looked growing up, like all sorts of things. So I'm just so happy that there are little Colombian girls and not girls out there who have this movie, because it's so happy, it's so positive. It's also got a really good message about generational trauma.
Yeah. So I think something that felt very identifiable, and I think all of us can kind of agree, was the different shades of color that people are in it, and that actually represented all of us here.
Like so, that's how my family looks. Like, no, like I'm lighter skinned, but a lot of my family isn't. And there's a lot of more indigenous traits. Like we've got a lot of Afro-Latinx people. We've got like, that's what Colombia looks like.
Yep.
That's what it is. It's
not Puerto Rico. Yeah, we're feeling it. How's everybody else's reaction? How are you guys feeling about it? I know I was really excited to see another Hispanic culture. I was very excited to see that it was Colombian. No offense to the Mexican heritage, but I was just really glad that like it was actually like something other than Mexico. Not that I don't like, I love Mexican culture and I think it's beautiful.
Excuse me?
I know.
Excuse me?
I know. It's a beautiful culture. I can recite so many things about Mexican culture, but it was so exciting to see another Hispanic culture. I mean, I wish it was Puerto Rico, but hey,
well, it's funny. It's funny because we were talking about this the other day, right? About like Hispanic versus Latine. Yeah. So it's really more Latine culture than Hispanic culture.
Fair enough.
Just to be clear, but what I loved is I had read something about the producer Clark Spencer, that the inspiration actually came from her grandparents, who were Colombian. I'm not, and that it's a kind of a literal story of them fleeing, and kind of what Blythe was talking about, that that Colombia is, viewed as this drug, like it has so much negative imagery associated with it, that's what the basis of Encanto was to create, this other image of that country specifically. I mean, I love the coffee, Colombian coffee. But the thing I loved most about it, I loved it. And the reason I loved it is because at the heart of every Latin, Latinx, Latina culture, right, is that we're storytellers. Like there's always the story, like we know, like, and good and bad. Like Rona is a story that you're told, in Mexico, it's a bad one, but you're told that from a small child. And so you tell these stories. And I love that this story was just so beautiful and magical. Like, nobody, these characters don't, in real life, don't have this magic and this ability, right? Or at least we don't know about it. All right, but maybe it's possible, but it's not real.
We got some witches.
Right, that's true. That's true.
We got some brujas.
But if my casita starts talking to me and moving around stuff, I'm
ready.
Yes.
But that's
you're not ready for the magic.
yeah. So I think that's what I loved about it, is that we really miss, especially in the age of, hey, we're in technology right now. We're doing the streaming, right? We're kind of going back to that. I think I enjoy this more than sort of like the social media feed of what you want them to perceive about you. We're telling the story again. We're sitting here in front of a campfire, as it were, talking about this. And I think that's what I loved about Coco. That's what I loved about Encanto, is that it's that storytelling, that magic, that hope, that the dreams. Those are the things that we talk about. In my culture growing up, we would talk about all that stuff.
It's also our narrative. Like, I think it's like one of the first times that it's talking about like what we want to talk about as Hispanic families,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did a thing with like some of the people who worked on the film through Women in Animation, and they were talking about how at Disney, they literally got every Latinx person in that office to get together and critique it and go like, this is accurate, this isn't accurate. And then the choreographer is Colombian.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a lot of the motions. She did specifically a lot of the motions for Dolores. And she would come in and be like, this is not right. This is like, they use so much input from their people who work there.
Yeah.
And like, it was also two Colombian filmmakers who gave them the idea. They were
right.
like, you go to Colombia, it's magical.
Yeah.
And
that explains why I felt so attacked when like it was like the whole movie's about like I do, cause like family drama like that happens, and like I don't know about like y'all, but like when I talk to other people and I talk about like how close I am with my family, but like the shit that we go through and like the arguments that we have, and they're like, you fight with your family like that? Like, don't you? Like, what the hell? Like, so like to see a movie about like families, like not, I don't want to use the word dysfunctional because they're not, but like.
Well, they are dysfunctional. Yeah. We are dysfunctional, but I mean, listen, I mean, we are getting less dysfunctional, I think, as the oldest person in the room here, going back, I just want to say the other thing that excites me really quickly is that when I was growing up, there was one Latino character on television. It was Freddie Prince's Junior's father.
Mm-hmm.
And he played a mechanic, and that was it. in the 80s, in the early 80s, and then they're really, I was watching the stand-up comedy thing where they talk about oh my God, I forgot her name already. She was in Selena. She was the one that killed Selena. I feel horrible that the actress, I'm gonna Google her right now. But she played a maid like 140 times or something. That was like her whole career was playing a maid. So to have movies that are actually telling stories about actual people is amazing. And you think about the thing that binds in Latine or Hispanic families, it's where is all of the drama happening? Where does it all happen? Food and parties, right? That's the one thing that no matter what, look, Randy's laughing because no matter where we come from, whether you're Cubano or Puerto Riqueño or, Colombian or Mexican, food is that's where it happens. Like the gatherings and the parties, the good stuff and the fights, right?
Yep. Randy, you're kind of giggling up there.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, 100%. That's where any drama that's ever happened in my family. I think I wanted to share a little bit about what my reaction to the movie was, because I remember I saw Coco and was floored about how beautiful I thought that movie was, but Mexican culture is very it's very specific, right? Like it's Mexican culture. This movie felt a little bit different for me, where it hit me harder because I think there were those scenes of them fleeing from some kind of violence, and that having been an exact part of the story that led to me being here just was something I never thought, one, Disney would have the guts to tell, and then to find the ability to make that story into something so magical and beautiful, and then to see people who looked like me, because I don't think I get to see a lot of Latin people who are Afro-Latino, and like, obviously so. Like, this movie did a great job of saying, look how diverse this country is and how diverse our diaspora is. And I remember watching it, and of course I love the music and I love the characters, but that was a moment that I was like, if I had been a little kid again, I don't think I would have felt like that was my story too up there. And I don't think I've ever had that. So
Lex, I think you had a similar reaction to that, right?
Yeah, I definitely love the overall look of the movie, but I'll definitely say I think I have a more unpopular opinion. It wasn't my particular favorite. In terms of I'll say in Disney movies, how they love to, tug at your heartstrings and really get you. I was like, I cried in so many Disney movies. And this one, I was just like, oh, that's it. Okay. It's okay. It's not for me, not the number one movie that Disney has made. But
there was me on the other side of the phone, literally blubbering like a whole bunch.
But to see Isabella, that really made me happy, because growing up, I was always the darkest, the negrita, no, everyone, you take a picture of me, you couldn't see me in the photos, especially I was an athlete, so I was constantly in the sun, actually kind of, trauma related, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the reasons why I don't go outside anymore, is so I'm not as dark. But to see Isabella as how dark I used to be, and I looked like her. I was like, if I was a kid, I would be like, that's me. Nobody can tell me that's not me. And so it was so nice to see her representing all the dark-skinned girls and being painted as someone so beautiful.
Yeah. So side note, Lex actually for her prom has a very similar dress to what Isabella wore, and she looked if you find her prom picture, looks just like Isabella. It's crazy. But Amanda, we're gonna be talking about character stuff in a second, and you get to talk about Isabella. What are your thoughts?
I just to repeat what Lex has said, Isabella is the beauty, and she's the second darkest skinned person in the cast. Like you have her, you have Felix and Antonio. And I think it's just very beautiful that they show this diverse like range of skin tones that you can find in Colombia. From like Peppa, who's very fair, she's got red hair, to Isabella and Felix. And there's also like showing that this is very a Colombian movie. Like with the coffee, there's the coffee kid, right? And he's just like all over the place, and coffee is a very important part. And you've also got like later in the movie a lot of, you see native plants in the area as well, which I think is just very beautiful.
They also do a lot of like little things, like all of the clothing. This is actually a hard thing for me right now, is seeing people cosplay it, because a lot of the clothing is very traditional Colombian clothing. So I kind of actually would like people to not be as accurate, because you don't know what you're cosplaying. So just things to keep in mind if you're not Colombian. But like there's like the little lip move, like when she's pointing to the gift, she does. My dad would do that a lot, where it was like a little like that's how you point with your lips. That's a very Colombian thing. There's a thing that Camilo does when he does this, and that's also the like, it's so cool.
Yes.
Like that's a thing we do.
Yeah.
A little like, yeah.
I saw that movement and I didn't realize that that was a Colombian movement. I've worked with teenagers and they love to do this.
It's a lot of, I mean, it's a Latin American thing, but it's really big in Colombia.
Right. Did anybody catch the I died? Like I actually rolled on the floor.
Was it the miércoles?
No.
That killed me. I lost it. I was like, oh.
That's funny. No, when it was like very subtle, you have to be like Latino to catch it, or Latine. It was when they were in behind the house, when Bruno and Isabella, yes, the main character, right? Mirabel. Oh my God, Mirabel. They were walking in the closet, and he's jumping on the boards, and he goes, "Sana sana colita de rana." Did you guys catch that? I died.
All his like little superstitions.
That was hysterical. I was like, oh my God, my mother did that every time, all the time.
Also, the candle is a really important Colombian thing. Like, we are obsessed with candles. We love candles. We also have a holiday to candles. Like, Colombians love candles.
When is that holiday?
Ah, crap. It's something like Day of the Candles. It's in Spanish, but it literally is like Day of the Candles.
Well, like even the music, like the choice to use Colombian like instruments more in the actual instrumentation, like this movie felt very authentic in that. Like the music had me wanting to get up and dance. I could not stop listening to the soundtrack. Like, right.
So one thing I wanted to point out was one of the scenes. Again, spoiler if you haven't seen it, sorry. Is the scene where Abuela, Alma, I'm going to correct that because I really hate that everybody keeps just calling her Abuela and they're calling her a villain, because my Abuela is not a villain. Thank you. So Alma and Mirabel, they're seen when they're hugging in the river, which is the same river of, the tragedy. Yes. It's actually a real river in Colombia, or like it's so pretty. Like I looked up the pictures and I was like, this exists? I need to go there.
They also used the displacement really cleverly, because Colombia has the highest rate of displacement in Latin America.
Yeah.
Of all of Latin America. And so they used it kind of cleverly to create this town of a bunch of different Colombian cultures. So you could see a bunch of different types of Colombians in one town. Basically is like, hey, a bunch of people have been displaced here, but they found home and they found magic here.
Right.
Which is really sad, but also really beautiful. And it was a good way to kind of get more Colombian people to feel seen.
So speaking about home and Casita and the family Madrigals, I think it's a good time. We all kind of picked characters to kind of do a little bit of a deep analysis and how we felt about the writings of these characters, or the portrayal of these characters, or kind of whatever we're feeling about those characters. So kind of want to dive into that. We all will be talking about Bruno together, so don't worry about that. We will get into it, but I do want to get into some of the other characters that may have not seen so much love or have seen tons of love. So let's see here. Blythe, how do you feel about going first since you have Maribel?
Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, I picked her because she's also like the character I relate to the most other than Bruno. Because growing up, I very much had that expectation of like, my family is very, very split apart, very, very all over the place. And I had this kind of expectation to try and fix it. And I always wanted to, but I was also always this kind of weird outsider. My parents weren't married, and that was really weird. And my mom was white, and my dad wasn't, like very complicated upbringing. So when I saw Mirabel and her just trying so hard to fix this family, but also be exactly what this family needed and wanted, even though she wasn't superhuman like the rest of them. Like the scene when she is like, I'll never be good enough for you. That was when I lost it. That was when I was like, and I'm done. I am crying now because I, in a way, was never good enough to fix my family. Eventually I realized it wasn't my job, but you know, Mirabel very much takes that on herself. She just wants to be what everyone needs and who everyone needs all of the time. And she doesn't really think about who she is as a person. She doesn't really get a chance to be herself because she's trying so hard to, you know, over decorate or help make things, or, you know, but she doesn't have to, and no one needs her to, but she wants so desperately to fit in and be needed that she is trying to go everywhere and be everywhere at once. Like, Under Pressure is Luisa's song, but Mirabel is genuinely under so much pressure because her family doesn't really pay attention to her and they don't really need her. Like, her parents clearly love her, they're kind, but you can mean well and be kind people who love your kids and still not be what they need. Because at the end of the day, like, she doesn't feel comfortable telling them what she needs because her needs don't matter as much as her family needs. So she doesn't really talk about it, and they're trying, but at the end of the day, they can't really like be there for her the way that they need to be or should be. And it's not because they're bad parents. Like, Augustine and Julieta are amazing, but Mirabel needs more, and she's not getting it because she's not special like her sisters or the rest of her family. And she is special. She's wonderful. She's a great person. She's kind, she's caring, she's funny, she's sweet, like, she's great. But that isn't enough for the rest of the family, and that isn't enough for Abuela, which is like, you know, we talked about this a little bit on Twitter, Sin, with Abuela. Like, Abuela Alma isn't a villain, but she is the perpetrator of the generational trauma. And I don't like ascribing the word villain, but if you have to put, like, it's antagonist is really the way I would say it.
Mm-hmm.
She is antagonizing Mirabel, the protagonist. I mean, through all of her actions, she's doubting Mirabel. She's literally like gaslighting Mirabel half the movie. She's literally making Mirabel doubt her own reality, even though Mirabel is just trying to help and do what's right. And she really, really, really just wants to help fix her family and bring everyone together and build a better foundation. Because if she does that, like, the magic will last forever, which is actually, I rewatched it last night, and this isn't really about Mirabel, but I noticed something about how the candle is a really flimsy foundation. Mm-hmm. It's melting. A candle does not last forever. It cannot burn forever. It has to go out at some point. And that's a really flimsy foundation for a family and for your magic and your miracle. It's a good start, but it can't be the only thing you're using. And then the house and Mirabel becoming kind of the new foundation at the end. I was like, I did not think about that the first time I watched the movie. Because at the end, it's Mirabel. She's the miracle. She's the foundation now. She is going to help everybody lift each other up, because now they're going to talk about things. Yeah. Now they're going to talk about their feelings instead of bottling them up.
Well, that's what I loved about her. Like, she had that ability to get that out of people, right? Like,
Well, that's actually what I was going to comment. Like, a lot of people say that she didn't have powers, and Blythe, you're wearing the glasses so beautifully. Her glasses are green. So I love the color usage, right? So the green, it's exactly like Bruno. What's Bruno's power again?
Future.
Or insight, right? He has insight to things. Well, what do glasses do?
You correct my astigmatism.
They help you see. Therefore, in my humble opinion, Mirabel had the power. People just didn't want to talk about it because it caused a lot of more problems for everybody else to see what it was within them. So like, particularly when she starts yelling at Abuela, right, or Alma, and the whole house breaks, like she had the insight to like say what was on her mind, like what was going on. So I think she was probably a pretty powerful character, as people like fail to realize it, like that was her power.
She was able to see it before anyone else could.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is something that I relate to a lot as a neurodivergent person growing up. My family, I mean, typically when you're neurodivergent, the rest of your family probably is a little bit, because you get it from somewhere. But like, I was always really quiet and observant and shy. And I always saw it when people were hurting or upset or everything before they did half the time. But, you know, you bring it up when you need to bring it up. You just kind of try to be there and support as you can. And that reminded me a lot of growing up, where it was like, you're quiet and you're kind of ignored. So you see everything, you hear everything, even more than the person who can literally hear everything.
Yeah. So speaking of support, I definitely want to jump over to Maribella's two sisters, Luisa and Isabella. So Lex, let's start with you. Let's talk about a little bit of Luisa.
Well, I think most of us can agree she has one of, if not the best song in the whole movie. We all could relate to that, which I think is probably the best thing the movie did. Was they never put any characters super in a box, because there's so much bleed. Everyone could relate to the surface pressure, you know? Everyone can relate to being the perfect child. So it was so nice to see that. But I truly identify with her being the physical and emotional rock. And that's truly why I think that song is so powerful. Is it's not about her physical strength. It is about her emotional strength and how she really helps the family be together, just like Mirabel does as well. They just do it in slightly different ways. I know I do that a lot for my family. In like a really funny moment when I realized this too was like our great grandmother passed away. Like it's been a long time ago, but it happened, and my mom was devastated about it. Of course, that's her grandmother. And Cynthia actually was about to go on a stage performance play. So she was like, we couldn't tell her that. And I remember my dad sitting me down and he was like, you can't tell Cynthia yet. You have to be the rock for this family. You have to be strong for her. And like my little kid self was like, I'm the rock. I'm the rock. I could do this. I could do this. And since then, I've just adopted that mentality. And so like I am Cynthia's physical rock, and my whole family's rock. I understand so much of the pressure that comes with, because it's hard for us to be more emotional. Even right now, I'm like, we're not crying because there's no time for us, unfortunately. But I like that throughout the movie you do see her open up a bit. You do see her, and at the very end you do see her sisters like actually hug her and be like, it's okay. And I think that's what a lot of things like the rock person needs, but will never say it. And so it's really cool that they have her there. I don't know. I think they just did such a good job with her. I do wish we saw more. Of course, I wish we see the sisters interact more, but I also love seeing the sisters fight, because that's what sisters do. We fight. We yell at each other. We don't like each other. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, hey, what do you want from Starbucks? Like,
you gotta do it like the video, sis. You gotta do like the video. What do you want from Starbucks?
Wait, the one thing I remember seeing this interview with Lin-Manuel Miranda and him saying that he wrote that song like partially because of his sister, because his sister was that rock for their family. And I think you can tell there is a lot of just carefulness that he placed into like writing it. It's so well written. And that last moment where it's the same sort of structure, and it's sort of, she's broken down and you can tell like she's carrying so much and it's getting to her.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely love that moment where she like thinks about giving up. I think everyone can relate to having that moment of like, I'm done, I'm gonna walk away. But I think there's something very unique about a Latin family in our entire dynamic that we're just like, no, we're not going to walk away. I love these people too much to walk away, and I'm going to help them. And I love that you see her still break through and wants to be there for her family in whatever capacity that is for her.
Yeah, and that's a lot like Bruno. He loves his family. He doesn't want to leave. And you see him
Yeah,
backling up the cracks in the back.
Yeah. He's
which is
eating
the
dinner
best.
with them.
Or
on the other side
Nando
of the wall.
Spackles.
Yeah.
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 And Nando is not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
Jorge makes a spackle.
Yes. So jumping over to the other sister, Isabella. Yeah, with the hair flip.
Yes.
So I was a lot like Mirabelle in the beginning of the movie, where I'm just, oh, she's so perfect. Ugh. But again, like actually putting aside my ego for a second, actually figuring out, oh yeah, she's the eldest, like me. I'm the eldest. I was expected to do certain things. I was the first in my family to go to college. I was always expected to be the guide for like my younger sister. But I think a lot of the animosity between Maribel and Isabella comes from that, that it's not miscommunication, it's just a lack of communication between the two, which is a theme throughout the movie. These characters don't interact, or like they don't talk much about between each other, like what Blythe was saying with Antonio, Maribel's father. When he finds out that Maribel got the prophecy, his first reaction was to go into his own toolbox and try to fix it the best way he knows how. Is we don't talk about this. We're not going to talk about this. The dinner's just going to go fine. Everything's going to be okay. But of course, that doesn't happen. You have to talk about it. And then having big emotions. When Isabel is kicking Maribel out of her room, they get into this fight, and Maribel's like, "You're just so perfect. You're entitled princess." And Isabel turns around. She goes, "I have never done anything for myself. Everything I've done has been for this family. I never wanted to marry Mariano." So that fighting sort of becomes the catalyst for them to like talk more and discuss like, oh, I'm seeing something here that I haven't seen before. And that's when Isabella's growth and power comes through. She makes the cactus, and it's spiky and it's sharp, but it's not ugly. It's exciting. It's new. And she takes that and rolls with it. I brought up when we were discussing the characters before in the chat, like Isabel can easily be viewed as an LGBT character. Like she can be very easily be queer, which is something I also identify with. I'm queer. Not a lot of my family knows. My mom knows, and I think my dad knows. But that's sort of a running theme within Disney movies as well. If someone doesn't want to get married, they're queer. So, and you see that like she's just sort of like, I don't want to marry this man. I want a world full of color, and I'm proud of who I am. And this is what I want. I want a world of color. And I think that's very beautiful.
She also gets a lyric. She's the only character who gets a lyric change in the We Don't Talk About Bruno. She, at the end of the song, right before it goes into the engagement, she starts singing "I'm Fine" instead of her actual lyrics. She starts and she's like, you can see the cracks and the breaking. She starts going, I'm fine," as she's dancing around the table.
And that's where I lost it in the movie.
I didn't notice that. I've watched it 4 times and I have not noticed that.
Yep. That is, as a perfectionist, as the golden child, that is the running response is I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yep. And I did actually, I see a lot of the queerness as someone who I like being high femme, but I always kind of really strayed away from androgyny because I was so afraid of tackling my gender. So I always went that high femme, high perfection, high all these things, which is part of why I just chopped off all my hair, because I was like, I can still be femme and have no hair. But yeah, like I see a lot of a queer reading in her, like a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, oh man, she's such a cool character. I could
I
go
love her.
in
Yeah.
it for days.
I have a
I talk
newfound
to
appreciation for her.
My
talk to my
favorite
therapist a
moment
lot.
was the hair, like the vision, and thinking that it was going to be Abuela that she had to hug, and then that
Oh, yeah.
moment with the hair flip, and I was just like,
Isabella.
like,
And that's another thing. The hug, it's not just a hug. What Bruno says over and over, it's an embrace.
Yeah.
So
Right.
embracing them for
for
everything
who
they are.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to jump over to the other side of the family since everybody knows there are triplets. So Bruno, which we've all been talking about already, Pepa and Julieta. So we're going to talk about Camille. Let's jump into Camille.
Camilo.
Oh yeah, Camilo.
Yeah, Camilo. So yeah, Camilo Madrigal. Well, it's funny because, you know, in thinking about this, he's the comedy act, right? I mean, he's the guy that he's a shapeshifter. He is, every time that somebody thinks that they're talking to somebody, like when I forget who's talking to Dolores when she's standing there, you know, with the food, so he can get seconds, right? And she's telling the whole thing, and then it turns out that it's not Dolores, it's actually Camilo, right? And I think I said it when we started, I'm a middle child, he's a middle child. And I was always, I think when you delve into the psychological aspect of this character, he's the mascot, right? So if you've studied any kind of psychology, this is the person that always tries to diffuse all of the tension in the family. They're trying to like do it through being funny, or they don't want to see the family arguing. They don't want to see the family. So, you know, he's always slipping in and changing and doing all this stuff to kind of distract so that people aren't arguing. And that was me growing up. I mean, I totally didn't want to see anybody fighting. So, you know, I promised I was going to tell my dad joke. So here's my dad joke. How do you invite an aunt to a party?
I don't know.
Would you like to come to my party? Or since we're like in Spanish, ¿quiere venir a mi fiesta? So yeah, I mean that's Camilo, right? That's, you know, he didn't have a huge part in the movie, but the part of the mascot, his part was so essential to all of this other character stuff going on. And I think I didn't want to jump in when Blythe was talking about Mirabel, but the thing that I saw very clearly about Mirabel and Alma is that, not that it's a protagonist antagonist, but that what I love about Mirabel is that she's completely authentic from beginning to end. What her magic is that she never falters from being her authentic self. And what she wants for other people is for them to be their authentic self, whoever they are. And that's love and courage. Where Alma is fear. Like, she wants she wants the magic to carry on because she's afraid that the magic will die. So, you know, and that point of them arguing is that most, like, they're both showing, as we say, you know, they're showing their ass, you know, at that point of who they really are. And Mirabel is at that moment where she's like, this is who I am, and you're never going to accept me, you know, for who I am. And the abuela is like, in that moment, she's so afraid that she ends up, you know, the fear ends up tearing the house down, right? So that's the reality of, you know, I'm pansexual. We were talking before we started here, you know, I didn't identify as pansexual until like a year ago, and I'm 53 years old. And I know it's sold my soul to the devil to look this young, but you know, it's one of those things where whoever, you know, hopefully what this movie represented for me is really, and even in the song that's nominated for, you know, an Oscar, it's about the little caterpillars, right? And they're growing and they evolve and they change. And that's I think what's beautiful about having movies like this, and where we have evolved as a culture, as a people, is that we don't have to be those we don't have to fit into those boxes. Men don't cry. You have to be strong. What Mirabel is showing us in the Latino culture, or the Latinx culture, is that strength is crying. Strength is being who you are. Strength is owning that you're not always strong, that we need to reach out for help and ask people for help, because there's too many people dying, you know, as a result. You know, people committing suicide because they don't accept themselves as being, you know, a different gender or a different sexuality or a different, you know, I'll say one of the things and then I'll shut up. You know, my favorite probably all-time movie moment that I really identified with was in the movie Selena. And it's when Edward James Olmos, Selena's dad, is talking to her and her brother in the car. And she doesn't understand why she can't sing Spanish. And he's like, you know, we're Mexican American. We have to be more American than the Americans, and more Mexican than the Mexicans. Because for me, I'm not necessarily, and this is controversial, but it's true, I'm not necessarily welcomed into the Mexican culture as being Mexican. Because I speak Spanish fluently, but I speak it pocho, as they say, pocho, you know what I mean? So I have that little, you know, American twang. I was born in El Paso, by the way, Amanda. Oh. So and I'm never going to be accepted as American, right? Or Caucasian is what we identified as American back in the day. So people aren't going to necessarily, you know, accept me. And it's funny because when I was growing up gay, my one thing that always used to bother me to no end, is when I would date these guys, you know, I happen to like, you know, I happen to like white guys, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm one of those, but you know, I'm marrying one in 2 weeks. But I love my people. But when I would go out, people would always look at me and go, "Oh, you're so exotic." I'm like, I'm not a snake or a flower. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you know what I mean? Oh, you're so, what exotic?
That's so rude. I get called that all the time.
It is so irritating.
Right? I'm like, what? No, you know, I'm not a plant, or, you know, anyway. So so this is for me, you know, again, anything that celebrates, like anything that puts Latinos in the spotlight, that are not the stereotypes of gang members, house, you know, cleaners, you know, maids, that type of thing, things that break out of that, right? Mechanics, you know, thugs, any of that stuff, anything that promotes us in a way, you know, is like, I love it, bring it on, you know. And there's, and I did also that moment, you know, of, you're never going to accept me no matter what. There was I had a visceral reaction to that moment, you know, because though I was accepted by my parents for being, you know, gay, or I am, my mom's no longer with us, but my dad still is, though I'm accepted and accepted by my family, I still know that feeling of trying to get acceptance from something or someone, and feeling like I'm failing at that, you know what I mean? It's tough. So we need to talk about this stuff, because there's too many people that don't have a voice and don't know how to use that voice and are afraid. And, you know, we already see what happens with the abuelas of the world, right? Anyway, that's what I got.
No, that was good. That was good. So I'm gonna switch gears because you 50 plus and fabulous. We're gonna talk about another person, another character that is 50 and fabulous, and that is Tia Peppa.
Yes.
She's 50 years old. So Tia Peppa is my character that I wanted to talk about. Because although I do identify with Isabella with her perfectionism, Peppa is also known for being a perfectionist. And unfortunately, when perfectionism goes kind of in the harder negative connotation, you end up with somebody who suffers from anxiety. And as most of you guys know, I am a huge mental health activist. I suffer from anxiety and depression. So Tia Peppa was literally me incarnate. So the whole idea of her mantra of clear skies, like I sit at home every day, like in the morning trying to inhala, exhala, try real hard with that. And it's not easy. So I really related to her powers of manipulating storms. And it was interesting to see how many times she was storming, because I equated it to her having panic attacks. And if you notice, she has a storm over her head pretty much every single scene, which means she's had a panic attack in every single scene of the movie.
Well, they actually admit later too that her happy emotions can also cause storms.
Yeah,
that's
interesting.
Yeah,
that
like
when Bruno tells her at the end, I was trying to, he was like, I saw that you were nervous. I was trying to say, don't be, like, let it go. Just let it snow, let it rain, let it do whatever you need to do, because her emotion, like her happiness also causes these things. And that's why it's snowing at the end when she's dancing with Felix.
So I have a point about Bruno here. This is the one time that I'm actually gonna be real pissed at Bruno, because he is trying to, I know he's trying to help the situation, but what right person goes to a bride and goes, oh, it's gonna storm on your wedding, calm down. Like it's not like, just let your
Somebody
emotions
who tells
go.
the truth.
What?
Somebody who tells the truth.
Yeah, but you're not gonna tell somebody that on their wedding day when they're already stressed out of a whole bunch of stuff. Like, come on, Bruno.
On his behalf, though.
Yes.
Well, I think what he's trying to do is let her know that, hey, you're gonna see this stuff. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's bad, and that his message gets taken differently. And I think that's what turned it into a hurricane, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it was good. Like she could have rained from like tears of joy.
Right.
Right. And he's like, yo, it's going to rain, but let it go. Just let it rain.
Let it go. Let it go.
I was gonna say, as an anxious person, I'd have been real mad about that.
And Tia Peppa was.
I'd have been real mad. So, but about that point, right? So you have the song, We Don't Talk About Bruno. So I kind of like listened to it again, and I thought it was very interesting that the entire family side of Peppa, everybody who was singing negatively about him. Even Dolores to a certain extent, right? Like she was like super quiet about singing that, like, oh, I think I still hear him. Like everybody was singing negatively except for Isabella. And
well, to the point, who wants to hear the truth, really? I mean, it again, defending Bruno, who's ready for the truth? Or we say we want to hear the truth, right? Be honest with me. But then if I'm honest with you and tell you, I hate that flower in your hair, Cynthia. What do you, not that I do, because I love it. I think it's beautiful. But, but, do you really want to know? That's, it's like, do people really want to know?
I think there's appropriate times to tell people the truth about things, and a wedding is not one of them.
Got it.
I think Bruno is also not Bruno's really blunt and direct.
Yes.
Like he's not the best. Yeah. Like
there's no
really
filter,
honest, but he's not. He's not tactful.
Yeah. I kind of read Bruno as being maybe neurodivergent, maybe on the autism spectrum.
I was just gonna say that maybe he's on the spectrum.
Probably.
Yeah.
No, it reminded me of me growing up, because I would tell people exactly what they did not want to hear, but I would just go, well, this is what's happening, and they'd be like, Blythe, why would you say that? And I was like,
so a couple of things I wanted to talk about Peppa is her color scheme. We didn't really touch on color scheme too much, but if you guys notice, there's the warm tones, the cool tones, and the neutral tones, which also kind of talks about people's skin, right? Pretty cool.
Right.
But the thing that I was really connected to was the curly hair situation. It was so cool to see my curly hair type, because you don't often get to see that. You get to see kinky coils, you get to see waves, but you don't see curl. Like I know I don't have corkscrew curls, but like, yeah, I was like, Amanda, you have it too, but we can't see you.
I know, kinda, maybe.
Yeah.
But if this movie came out 10 years earlier, maybe I wouldn't have had to look to Merida as my curly hair inspo.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a girl growing up in the 90s, I was always told that your hair was a mess. Your hair looks like a Brillo pad. Like, you are like all over the place. You need to straighten your hair. Like, if you want to look professional, you need to straighten your hair. I try to ignore that as much as possible, because I love my curly hair. But it was so nice to see the different textures, and particularly with Peppa. Peppa has very similar texture to my hair. So I thought it was just really beautiful. And the fact that it was auburn, she had the green eyes, you could probably tell that she had freckles like just a little bit. So like, I pretty much have all of that except for the auburn hair, except for like during the summertime, my hair actually did turn red a little bit, and the green eyes. But I don't know, like, I think Peppa was like such a beautiful like middle ground of what like a Latino Hispanic person looks like without being like, I'm super tan, like, you know. Yeah, like I really loved her warm demeanor and all of her little like quirks of like weird things happening, her face being like, yeah, like, okay, let me, like, I'm gonna handle that fine. And every time she had these weird quirks, it would be Felix who comes in and like just like warms her back and is like, it's okay, baby girl, like, I got you. Like, Randy, hit me with some Felix.
Yeah, so I'd love to, because Felix was a breath of fresh air to me in this movie, him and Augustine, but Felix obviously is there for Peppa, and I think exactly what she needs in a partner. Like, he listens, he's accepting of whatever mood she's in, and he has a positive outlook on it, right? Like, he's sitting there like, yo, our wedding was in a hurricane, but that was a great wedding, right? Like, that is someone who obviously deeply adores the person he's in love with. And I mean, I have a Theo who's like that, and they're just a beautiful couple to watch, and they're madly in love. And I think seeing that sort of portrayal in a show where it's just like the husband is sort of he's sort of the hype man for her. Yeah. And it's definitely going against I think someone here is talking about like images of toxic masculinity, and he doesn't have that. He's all about the emotions. Let's go. and I think that's what makes their relationship really beautiful. And
yeah, I do also love the fact that it's a matriarchy too. Like, both women are like, or all three women are super like huge like leads in it, and the men aren't I don't want to say secondary at all, because they have their own personalities and they are like working themselves, like they are their own characters, but like you could tell they take the step back and let like their wives like do the majority of the talking. And I feel like in my family,
like real life,
yeah, like I feel like Latin families do that a lot. It's usually
we know who wears the pants in the family. Oh, yeah. The Latino families.
Wait, so this is one thing that really stuck out to me, because like when I was born, I was this black little kid, right? Like black and Hispanic, and my mother took me to El Salvador with my abuela, right? And I had tios who were kind of assholes, because that side of my family has a lot of pride in the fact that they can trace back to Spain or whatever, right? Even though there's definitely indigenous people in there, but my abuela was not like that. And my abuela shut that shit down. Anytime someone would start to say something around my mother, she just shut them up. She ran that house like and don't get me wrong, my abuelo, Papa Ramon, he was a big personality, but he had nothing on my abuela. And I think that's what I saw when I was watching the two main like parent relationships in that movie. And I think what also stood out to me, obviously, is his skin color, right? I think I started touching on that, but they very deliberately made him very dark skinned, yeah. Which I was like, whoa, okay, Disney. and then having all of these kids who are so like different shades, and like showing just how, I mean, I looked at characters and I was like, people have my skin tone in a movie. Like,
Right.
what? and it was beautiful. And I just really love, like, for me, probably because I see myself in them, I was really drawn to that side of the family. And I think the second person I was going to talk about was,
Can I say something else?
oh
really
yeah,
quick
yes,
about
please,
Felix?
before I move. Yeah.
I have to say this because I don't know. In what about we don't talk about Bruno. I am so tickled by his line. Like, you have no idea, because of the way he, no clouds allowed in the sky. I mean, he's like protecting her. Like, he's so serious about it. And I was like, oh my God, that's so right on. I just thought
The part where he gets like so into it,
so
and like,
serious. He's like,
and
no clouds allowed. Yes,
And
like,
also, he respects Peppa when she says, "Hey, you're interrupting me." He's like, "Sorry,
Right.
mi vida, go on."
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like I really love the positive masculine roles in this movie, because I feel like a lot of the other representation is so stereotypical machismo, must be
Right.
tough, show off all the time. And then you get this really buff guy in Felix, and he's like, nah, I'm a softie. I just want to hug people and have a good time.
So I'm also talking a little bit about Dolores, who also I think stood out in the movie because, one, they gave her a lot of runs and a lot of, like, flavor in her in the way that she vocalized things. But I think it's really interesting because her power is super hearing, right? She has the ability to hear things, which on the surface, when you compare it to like lifting things or making flowers and making the city beautiful, isn't that useful, right? She's the second oldest of all of the cousins, right? And she kind of has to understand that she's going to hear things and see things and experience things, but she has to sort of just keep quiet about it, which I thought was such an interesting way to go about it. So she's sitting there like listening to, Mariano talk about like the kids he wants, and she's pining for him and listening to his poetry and all these things. And she's not allowed to say, hey, I want to date that guy. I think she's doing the same thing that Isabella is doing as the oldest child. And it's so sad, but like the big thing that I really wanted to talk about here was the little like sound she does whenever she hears something, right? I mean, because that is, I have family members that do that in real life, and I was just like, this is so accurate. And it's like, I couldn't imagine a power like that, right? When she claps with her fingers, everyone, because every sound for her is just always so hyper vigilant, right? Like she's so feeling it all the time. And it's like, she's living with all of that, and she's still like letting Isabella be the main center stage in all of it. So that's really what I wanted to do. And she was like when they were talking about Bruno, and this is the last thing. She's also the first person to tell Isabella, like, hey, I think Luisa, her eye was twitching all last night. You should go and talk to her, right? I saw this like weird Reddit post where someone was like, she might be the villain. Maybe she doesn't want powers or blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that's true. I think it was weird. There's some weird theories out there, you guys, for Encanto. I don't know if you know that, but I was like, absolutely not, because she didn't know that Bruno was in there. She thought, but he's also like sitting there pretending to be rats, right? Like, so she probably heard stuff, and she's hearing stuff all the time. So so when she finally goes, like the moment in We Don't Talk About Bruno, where she's like, I think I can hear him now. Like she's wondering if like it's really true or not, right?
So we do have to mention though, at that moment, you do see Bruno like bop into his own music.
He's going off.
Is it him or is it Camilo? That's like the big debate. Like, because his eyes are glowing, and Camilo is the one who does the eye glowing.
Yeah.
So well, I'm pretty sure. Is it him dancing or is it Camilo just vibing as a little weirdo?
I mean, Either way, I believe it. I believe
Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
probably,
I'm
even if
with
he's
it.
not up on the balcony, he's probably back there with the little rats like dancing around.
All right, y'all. I think we're gonna call it here. This was a fantastic discussion. Thank you for all of your time. I really appreciate each and every one of you's perspective. I thought that was amazing. Chat, we love you. Thanks for being with us here. Let's go ahead and go around the room. Where can we find you on social media and what is coming up for you? Let's start with Amanda.
Hey, so name's Amanda Varela. You can find me at MandaMV on TikTok. Also Instagram. I don't really post much on social media. You can also find me at Dystopia Rising. Yeah, that's it. Next up for me is, I don't know, probably bedtime.
Yes, that's accurate. Excellent. Hector.
Yes, Hector, you can find me on Hector QL Spider on Twitter and Instagram. And don't have a TikTok yet, so that may be up next. Also, you can look up Bathtub Karaoke on YouTube, which should be really fun. And the next big thing coming up is I'm getting married on
2 weeks.
February 20th. Yeah,
2
almost a week and a half, not even 2 weeks, in Las Vegas, in Disney bound. So it's everybody just come in as Disney villains. My future husband is coming as Ursula or President, and I'm going to be Hook. So anyway, and yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you.
Lex. Where
Oh,
can people find
hi. You can find 2 very dead accounts on Instagram or Twitter called Lex the Chameleon, where I never post or look at them, but they're there. And what's next for me is I have 1 week of school and then I finally get my bachelor's degree.
I'm a proud
Congrats.
sister.
That's awesome.
Wait, no, but tell them what else you got. What's your title?
Oh, I'm graduating summa cum laude. I have
Yay.
a 3.97 GPA, and we kind of like briefly talked about this, but I guess like on our mom's side, Cynthia and I are like first gen college graduates, so it's quite nice.
I'm so proud of you, sis. I love you.
Love you too.
All right, going around the screen. Randy.
Yeah. So I'm Randy Alvarenga. You can follow me on Twitter at Rolleraja. That's ROLLERRAJA. Over there, I'm doing various things, so you can follow me there and find out. Some of the things are I'm doing a season of Harbinger's RPG over on Gone Rogue. We're shooting that in LA. And then that'll air sometime in March. And then I'm doing 2 shows, one for Band of Badgers, and then another one over on Dragons and Things. So come check me out if you like watching tabletop RPG games, or come play LARP with me in California at Twin Mask. Cool. All right.
Right on, right on. Blythe, my darling, where could everybody find you?
I just realized something. Bruno's the autism and Mirabelle's the ADHD. This is just something I just realized as we were talking about this. We don't have time to discuss that, but do with that what you will, internet. You can find me across the internets at BlytheKala93. That is BlytheThekala93. Right now, the things that are coming up is I am on Happy Jack's RPG every other Sunday. We are taking a break on Super Bowl Sunday because one of our players is a super fancy reporter and has to cover it. So we'll be taking a break then, but every other Sunday, Happy Jack's RPG, come watch me play in a game of the gayest like mummy story ever. Yes, even gayer than the 1999 Mummy, I promise. It's literally 5 lesbians and 1 man. It's great. And then I have some comics that I'm going to be releasing pretty soon, which is really fun. I commissioned the art. I wrote them. They'll be posted. I think that's all that's going on right now. I don't know. Just come listen to me talk about Star Wars. People ask me a lot of questions about it on Twitter.
Yes. Thank you, Blythe. And I am your host, Cynthia Marie. You guys can find me on Twitter at CynDance or Instagram, Cynthia__Marie, or you can find me on this very channel when we do the flagship podcast, Life Action Roleplay, where we talk about life, roleplay, and some action we get. I mean, it's COVID, so sometimes, it doesn't happen. Anyways, but if you don't want to listen to that, you could also check out some of the other shows that I'm on. I am on a little tiny show called LA by Night. It is an official World of Darkness show where you can go venture into looking at vampires. I play Nellie G, the fancy Rose Toreador. That has actually already wrapped, so you can find all of that on YouTube, the official channel for World of Darkness, or I can't remember right now, but it's there. You just type it in. It's not hard to find. We're also starting a new season coming up this year, New York by Night. So stay tuned for that. I'm very excited. But if you want to see something that I'm on right now, you can check out Ruin Quest, which is on Chaosium's official channel, where I play Vasana, who is also very much a Wonder Woman warrior. It is set in the fantasy realms that Chaosium has created. So if you like Call of Cthulhu, and you like Roman fighting magic stuff, come check us out. It's really, 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 really cool and exciting. Other than that, I'm also playing in Aliens RPG on the Initiative Order, where I play captain of the ship. Her nickname is Spiderling. Lex, you're gonna laugh. Her last name is also Cortez. It's an inside joke. We'll talk about that later at some other point. Let's see here. I'm also on Gods of Color, which is a D&D campaign on the Cookout TTRPG. So check those out as well. Those are coming up every other week. Yada, yada, yada. Let me see. I've done some writing for Patheo Studio for the Red Opera and Sirens Battle of the Bard book. So check that out if you want to see anything that I've written. I've also created a dice line on Die Hard Dice. Check those out, baby. If you want some of those, they're rose gold, gorgeous, and blue that I helped design, and they also go to a beautiful charity for anxiety disorder. Please go check them out, Die Hard Dice. Crap, that's it. Like, I have a bunch of other stuff, but that's like the spiel that I've got going on right now. So I'm gonna cut it for, wait, what? Yep, Tuesdays from now. Yeah,
there was a thing I have to mention that I forgot to mention. On this very channel, we are doing a first draft read of the first draft of Star Wars, which is not anything like the Star Wars I will be playing Anakin Starkiller, so I really think you should come check it out. That is February 22nd, 8 p.m. Come watch it. It's going to be ridiculous.
Super awesome. So y'all, that was it. This was amazing again. Familia, muchas gracias. We out, chat. Thank you.
Buenas noches.
Bye.